morning guys, how are you? Andrew Fuller, RACHP School here. We're going to do a bit of learning, right? But my son ain't in the room. I'm going to be a bit truthful. Right, I've noticed since I've delved into this world of online stuff, right? I've noticed that there's a guy on the internet. Oh, he's got the suntan. You know, the hair's looking good. He's got the chest. He's got the teeth that he's bought from Turkey. And he's out there. Got to be careful, my son runs. And he's out there and he shouts for some reason. He just shouts at you. Get off the tools. You don't need to be on the tools. What are you doing? You can't earn money off the tools. What a load of nonsense. Fellas, this stuff is all right. Me teaching you off a video to learn basic stuff, that's all fine and dandy, that's great. But you're never gonna earn a living sitting indoors watching videos, okay? The only way you're gonna learn is by getting out there, getting on the tools. There's a big thing right now about companies are holding back F-gas, all F-gas certification. F-gas ain't going nowhere, fellas. It's not going nowhere at all. It's staying. It's going to have a hydrocarbons qualification added to it, I should think. And you've got to remember, excuse me, you've got to remember, right? Every commercial building in this country has got R410A, has got R32, has got 404. You know, they've got all these fluorinated refrigerants. Every single building. So when people tell you you can't earn money on the tools, nonsense. You know, you're looking at 15 to 16% above the national average. You don't, you know, don't sit back. You can earn money off the tools, all right? It drives me mad, all this internet stuff, but my son tells me I've got to do it, so I've got to do it, you know. I don't know, he knows. Anyway, right, Monday Club. It don't have to be Monday Club. Let's do some learning, shall we? Let's look at this stuff. Right, so, last time we went through the system, didn't we? Okay, so we know now hot to cold, right? We've got our certain pipes, we've got our discharge. So let's go through this a bit. Right, when we've got our compressor and it reduces that volume, okay, and it heats everything up, it turns it into a superheated vapour and it comes out of this discharge line. Right, now, on pipe work, guys, anything you can touch and where you can record a temperature, right, that's a sensible heat process. If I stick a probe onto a bit of pipe work and I can record a temperature, that's a sensible heat process, okay? So that's one thing, just remember that. So all of this pipe work, this suction line, this discharge line, this liquid line, and this one, what I'd call the expansion line, okay? Anywhere I can touch that pipe work, that is a sensible heat process, okay? As I come out of this compressor, that's the main part of our system. That's the important thing. The rest is just copper and coil, right? As I come out of this compressor, I de-superheat. I'm losing a bit of heat energy, remember, from hot to cold. So I'm de-superheating on this discharge line here. I'm losing kilojoules per kilogram. I'm losing heat energy going out to the ambient temperature, okay? Because I'm going from hot to cold. Say I've got here 55 degrees and I'm going out to 30. Well, I'm going from hot to cold, aren't I? So I'm losing a bit of heat energy there. When we come into this condenser, you can see here, coming down here, this is my 100% saturated vapour line, okay? So there's certain terms that you have to learn in this job, same as every job. Saturated, what would say, a good way of explaining saturated, I grew up on a council estate, right? And of a morning, or of a morning, of an afternoon, whenever, night time, all you'd hear is all the mothers coming out on the landings. Andrew, get in here, you're saturated. It'd be pouring down of rain. What saturated means is, I'm sodden, I'm 100%, I can't take any more. Do you know what I mean? I'd be saturated, drowned in wet. So that's what that means, saturation, okay? So here's my 100% saturation line. So everything on this side is a vapour. I come into my condenser. Now I start changing states. I start going through a state change, okay? And what I'll do is I'll sort of go, well, there's 100% vapour, there's 90%, there's 80%, 70, 60, 50, right? Now I'm a two-state mix. I'm a mixture between a vapour and a liquid. It's like getting a pot. If you had a pot of water and you turn that flame down, imagine turning that flame down and it's got a lid on top of it. Yeah, it will all condense, all that steam, if you like, it will condense and it will change states and it will go back to a liquid. This is what we're doing. This is why we have a fan blowing across it to reject all of that heat energy. Okay, so we change state here and we turn to a liquid. We change to a liquid. Now I've got 100% liquid. Okay, I want 100% going into here. I've got a liquid receiver and we'll talk about that in further videos. I want 100% liquid going into this valve. My expansion valve drops that pressure and temperature. Okay, I come through my expansion line, I come to my evaporator, and that's where I pick up all of that heat energy. Remember, all we're doing is dumping that heat energy outside. I mean, if we was to look at the compressor, right, say we was to take the compressor, two things that my compressor hates. Liquid, doesn't like liquid at all, it'll damage it. Trust me, I've done a few in my time, don't worry about that, we all do it. Doesn't like liquid going into that compressor. And the other thing that can really damage it is heat. Too much heat will destroy my compressor. And that's the main thing in the system. This is why we have this thing here, a HP switch, a high pressure switch. If it gets too hot, that'll cut out and save the compressor from damage. Okay, we also have an LP, basically does the same sort of thing in a sense. It will just cut it out and save it from damage. Actually, I just want to go over a couple of terms, okay? So as we come through this pipe work, as I say, that's a sensible heat process. Once we come into this condenser, what we're doing a latent heat process, okay? So latent heat or hidden heat, they call it. It's a form of heat that you can't grasp. Do you know what I mean? It's not like tangible. You know when you're up the West End or wherever out clubbing and you're waiting for a mini cab and you're standing there next to that metal grate to keep warm? Well, there's a condenser behind that metal grate and it's chucking out all that heat energy to the ambient. So this is a latent heat process which it goes through. Couple of important things. May as well get something out of these videos, wouldn't you? Remember, you can't learn this job off of this. You've got to get out. You've got to get out on the tools, right? You've got to go to work every day. I can show you so much, but there's no school like the old school. Going out for a company, going to work every day. Anyway, that's enough of me moaning. Through here, we go through this latent heat process. On here you can see I've got 15K. I don't know if you can see it there, but there's 15K. That K stands for Kelvin, okay? After a guy called Lord Kelvin. So we've got different temperature scales. We've got Fahrenheit. German guy come along, played about with it, and he started the Fahrenheit scale at 32 degrees, okay? Then you had a guy called Celsius come along. He started at 0 degrees. Okay, then we've got Lord Kelvin, and it's the absolute scale really. Kelvin, when we talk about Kelvin there, 15 Kelvin, what that means is Kelvin is the differential temperature. So if I've got an ambient temperature blowing onto my condenser of say 30 degrees, right? I want 45 degrees. So if I've got an air probe, if I go to the back of the condenser, ambient temperature, 30 degrees, back of the condenser ain't going to change. It's going to be 30 degrees. If I put my air probe at the front, I want it to be 45. That ain't fixed numbers, that's just a 15 degree differential. And that's when we say Kelvin, okay? What that means is, say, how does that work practically? Say I roll up on a job. Right, and I've got the guy in me, the guy's telling me, saying, I don't know, the air conditioning ain't working, I don't know what's going on. There's certain things you want to do practically. You want to listen to what he's saying, of course you do. You're polite and you want to soak up what he's telling you. But what you also want to be doing is when you walk into a room, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but most engineers be like that. They're looking up, as he's talking to you in the ear, you're looking up at the ceiling, or the engineer's looking up at the ceiling. He's looking up at the ceiling for a reason. He's looking for oil stains. Our compressor is going to have oil sitting in it. The only two things we want in our compressor, in our system, forget, we don't want air, we don't want moisture. We want the oil and we want the refrigerant involved. Okay, so what he's looking for, that engineer, when he walks in, he's looking for oil staining on the ceiling. Say you've got a cassette, he's looking for oil staining. That's a good sign that he's got a leak, hasn't he? Okay, then what you can do, I've always said it, I said it to lads that work for me, power, air, refrigerant. You don't want to be running about a job looking for stuff. If you can go by power, air, refrigerant, it keeps your mind in a good focus. So what you're going to do, you're going to walk in, you're looking up. First thing you're going to do, turn the controller on. Full cooling, imagining you've got a heat load, of course you're going to have heat load. Put the fan on full fan and full cooling. Power, okay? We're going to look at the controller, is it flashing? Is there anything wrong there? Does it say assessing coming up or anything like that, you know? No, fantastic. We stick with power. What we're going to do, we're going to climb up on a ladder, makes health and safety of course, but we're going to climb up on a ladder, we're going to drop it, we're going to make sure the fan's spinning. All right, I'm going to take, there's a control panel in there, I'm going to take down the metal box, you know, open up the metal box, and inside you're going to have some neon lights. So you want to make sure it ain't flashing like a fruit machine. Do you know what I mean? You've got a nice solid green light. Fantastic, that's good. You can go outside, you can do the same to the condenser. Take the cover off and make sure you've got a good solid light. You know, nothing's going mental there. So power, everything's good. Then what you have to look for is air. We talk about filter bashers in our industry. Let me tell you, a filter basher, a good so-called filter basher, is worth more money to a company than an install lad or a service engineer. The filter basher keeps your clients. They keep them clients, you know, good ones. And what they'll do, say you get 30 minutes to clean an indoor unit. I wanted lads to take liberties with me. I wanted them to take 45 minutes, 50 minutes, because that proves to me they're taking a thermistor out and they're touching, you know, and they're homing things out and they're just playing about a little bit. They're just learning their craft. Nothing wrong with being a service engineer, I promise you. Best way to learn this job. So anyway, they've looked at their filter. You have to have this stuff spotlessly clean. You can't do any checks without it being clean, okay? And then you go out to the condenser, you do the same, you make sure the fan's clean. You've got to remember, if a fan's got dust on it, for instance, eventually that'll run out of sync, that'll do the bearings. The motor goes, that will go through to a board, the board will go. All of a sudden, your client, just through not having a clean system, will be paying out thousands. And your company won't be liked because they're paying for preventative maintenance. They expect it to be clean. So, you've got power, you've got air. Once you've got those two things, if your system's clean, if you've got good power going to everything and everything's working fine, you can only then be left with refrigerant. When it comes to things like air conditioning, it's critically charged. You can only be left with a refrigerant. So you've knocked off them two, you're left with a refrigerant, okay? It's just a good way, it just stops you going mad, running all over the show. You can be on massive jobs sometimes and you don't want to be running over trying to figure stuff out. So power, air, refrigerant, always stick to that technique, I would say. Once you've got that, what you want to be doing, full fan, full cooling. I've got an ambient temperature outside of 30 degrees, haven't I? If it's 30 degrees, I would like something like 45 degrees coming off, because that's telling me then it's blowing all that heat energy. It's working, it's getting rid of it. Down here at our evaporator, excuse me, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got my air probe, I've got an ambient temperature of, I don't know, 25 degrees. Right, the difference is with this one, I want an air, so we call that air on, air off. So I'm going to hold my probe here, I've got an ambient of 25. My ambient's not going to change when it's air on to the condenser. Okay, so I'll hold it up there, that's going to be 25. Air on, it's just pulling up heat energy out of that room. Now what I'm looking for a 10 Kelvin differential. I want to come down in temperature, don't I? So if my room's saying 25, my air on or air in, some lads like to think of it, I don't, but there you go. Air on or air on, I would say. Air on is going to be 25. Air off, where it comes out of those louvers, where the air blows out, I want that to be about 15 degrees. That's telling me that's working then, okay? So just with an air probe, you can do so much. You can do so much if you remember the 15 Kelvin on the condenser and the 10 Kelvin on the evaporator. Air on, air off temperatures. All right? So, as I say, we come through here, remember, sensible heat on my pipework, latent heat through both of these. I've got it here, it's a saturated two-state mix. Okay? If we remember, we said last time, my board's not working. Why is that not going? Have I got that switched on? Oh, the battery's gone. Oh, I can't do it anyway. Remember, I can draw that square through there, can't I? Everything at the top on the high side is going to be high pressure, high temperature. Low side, low pressure, low temperature. Everything over here is a superheated vapor. Everything over there is a subcooled liquid.